Hey, fellow patriots, almost Merry Christmas. Welcome to Hope Survival YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for returning. If you're new, welcome. If you're not a subscriber, please reach out and hit the subscribe button and become a member and follow along with us on our preparedness journey. And if you like this video, please hit like, and if you have any comments, please leave them below and I will answer them as soon as possible. So here we are, stuck on the interstate in traffic. Story of my life. Going in every direction. At least it's a beautiful day, and I get to talk to you, right? So it's not so bad after all, right? So do you ever feel like you're in a pickle? You ever feel like you don't know which way to go, which way to turn, what to do? Maybe your spouse isn't aboard with your preparedness, and along with your kids, they all think you're wacko. There's nothing wrong with the world. You're overloaded because you're trying to keep peace on the home front and still prepare. You're preparing for 2, and you've got 4 kids, and you're prepared for 4 kids and 5 grandkids. And what do? You're preparing for so many people. It's a lot of food. And the weight of why they don't get it is just weighting you down. What do? And there's so many things going on in the world. Every time you turn on YouTube or turn on the news, you don't know what's true or not true anymore. Who's telling the truth? One channel talks about a financial collapse in the early part of 2024. Another podcast is showing videos of the southern border invasion. Another podcast is talking about the corruption in Washington, D.C. Another podcast is talking about the crime and the juveniles in our country that are committing crimes with firearms, and a justice system that's letting them walk. Then you watch another video of juveniles beating up another juvenile child. There's like 50 to 1. And it just goes on and on and on. Viruses, wars. And then you're trying to figure out your budget. Where can you pull some money from without creating a war at home to buy food to feed the whole army? If you only had one neighbor who was in agreement that you could at least talk to or vent to, why does everyone just not get it? Does any of this sound familiar in your life? It's pretty depleting and draining, isn't it? I think we all have moments in one or some of these areas. You know, should we move? Should we buy land? Should we move to another state? It would just be easier to go sit in the corner and just put a blanket over my head. Would the world just stop for one day? If just one of my children would get it and understand to help me get the others to understand. Why does every time we talk about it, it turns to someone around you or someone in your family calling you a kook or making fun of you, or they get in your cabinets and you've got extra food there and they laugh at you? They just don't get it, do they? Yep. I understand. I've pretty much heard it all over the years. Or someone asks me, explains their situation, asks what should you do? Where should they move? What's the biggest threat? What do I think? Folks, we're all in this pickle together. It's a whole new environment from the America that we grew up in, that we're used to living in, the securities we used to have around us, no worries of our financial system. All we had to do was manage our checkbook and make sure that we had more checks in there to write. Been there too. I had a young kid I used to supervise, and I was always having to counsel him because he was always bouncing checks. And sadly, he did not understand that the check that was being written was based off the money that was in the bank. It wasn't because he had enough checks in the checkbook, he could just keep writing them. True story. I told you that because sometimes I truly wonder if the logic that this young man had with his banking and his lack of knowledge in managing is even how some folks are living their life today. They have full trust in a system that's failing them, and they have little recognition or acknowledgement of the system that they have believed it was built around them is failing, and they need to become self-reliant and self-dependent and to build plans to protect their family. Oh no, there he goes. He used that word plan again. Yep, it's all about plans. Gotta have plans. Do you plan your family vacation when you go? I figure most of you do. You make a grocery list when you go to the grocery store? Probably. How about when you tell family you need to make your Christmas list? Santa needs to know what to shop by. Why is it so easy to write all these lists out for things, and it's such a major hurdle for folks to just sit down with paper at a table and just start writing their plans of what they're going to do and how they're going to do it? I don't get it. Granted, I was raised in the military from the age of 22. So most of my life for 20 years was focused around plans and paper and reading checklists and all that. So I do understand how it may be difficult, but you know, a lot of these plans I laid out on the Hope for Survival website for you. And all you had to do was print them and fill them in. Or I gave you instructions on how you could go about doing your comm plan or your emergency plan and so forth. But all I can do is give it to you. It's up to you to do the rest. So let's get back to that. The whole world is making me feel like I'm in a pickle jar. So what are you going to do about it? What is an easy solution? Well, by now you should have learned if you keep pressing the issue, it only creates dissent, anger, and argument. So you need another approach. It's safe to assume that everyone should know by now where you stand and what your position is, right? So you don't have to keep making that position known, which is probably what raises tension and so on. So put that behind you. So maybe start planting some seeds. You know, maybe set up an outing to take your spouse or one of your children maybe out to a firing range just to fire handguns. You know, get them involved in that. Get them interested in that. And maybe you have a garden and maybe one of them would like to come over, or one of your grandchildren especially, and kind of teach them about planting a seed, and then when they start growing, having them come over and see what's growing from the seed. And then when it's time to pick the golden nuggets that are producing from your plant, have them come over and help you pick them and let them see kind of the reward of the effort and explain it to them. I know in the past couple years, our oldest grandson, who is 12, going on 13, of course, he went out in 2 different years and helped us pick green beans, and he loved it. And then he helped pick blueberries, and later he got to eat some of the blueberries, and then later he got to have some of the blueberry jelly, and he loved it. But he got to see the whole production process from the bush having no leaves in the winter to turning green, and then the little berries popping up, and then them turning purple, and then blue. And he got to see that whole process, so he understood it. He understands now where food comes from. So find these small areas to get different people involved in, and kind of like doing Legos or Lincoln Logs. You're building it one piece at a time versus just saying, hey, the world's going to crap and you need to go out and buy a year's supply worth of food, and here's where you can go buy it at, and while you're at it, you need to get A, B, C, D, and E. So you didn't just sell them on a concept. You basically kind of dictated to them, you need to go spend several $1,000s, and while you're doing it, you need to buy this, this, and this. And turn off the football game, and you need to start watching and reading these things, right? So just like you don't walk out and see apples ready to pick on your tree, or fruit ready, or your vegetables ready, there's a whole process of maturation that it goes through. So maybe try doing this with your loved ones, gently. Time's not favorable. They're running out of time to do it. But if you can get a little bit forward out of them, it's better than nothing at all, right? At least get their minds open. It's a whole new world. And for many, for a parent who's got children at home, a parent wants to protect their child in almost every case. So what we're saying and all the problems that we see coming, we're basically turning that world upside down for that parent, right? And in some cases, they don't want to hear it. And it's understandable, right? They want a bright future for their child, get an education maybe, or get some type of skill, and be able to grow up and have a good job, get married, have children maybe. It's kind of the American way. And we're kind of saying to them, that's all changed. It's most likely not going to happen. So there's probably a bit of defensive mechanism, self-protection. When you take these steps to try to involve family, you really got to look at the psychological side of it. You need to really think and understand how that person thinks, and determine what's the best path going forward. It may not be you who needs to have the conversation. It may be your spouse, or it may be one of your other children, who is the most open-minded to preparedness, and getting them to get the other one involved. So it's not as simple as ABC, and many of you you've encountered that, and now many have already established this wall or barrier between the parent and the adult child. So think about it. But when the world feels like it's closing in on you, one of the things we need to do daily, always, is we need to be in prayer, and we can't be discouraged. As hard as that is sometimes, it's easy to be discouraged in the world today. We just have to keep our focus and stay on course. I would encourage you to sit at a table maybe by yourself and write down, say, the 5 most important objectives you're working on that you need to achieve first. And then for each one, list the pros and the cons. And then start weighing out steps, checklist. Start weighing out steps, how is best to achieve those objectives. Even if you're a single person and you're preparing, right? Your wants and needs. Do you sit and ponder and worry about that you don't have all these things? Well, you need to make a list. What are the priorities for basic preparedness and survival? Food, water, shelter, security, medicinal, communications, right? Do you have the basic foundation in these areas? But before you go buy a $500 or $1,000 radio, do you have at least 30 days, 90 days, 6 months worth of food, right? You can't eat $500 radios. You can't eat radios, period. So you need to really build that food foundation, water filtration, educate yourself on how to clean water if you don't have a filter. And you need to build up on these things. And I promise you, the more time that you spend writing these things down and building your preparedness buckets, the more you're going to find you're less stressed and your confidence level is going to go up, and you're going to feel better about things, right? So when you're around family, if they see you upbeat and kind of spirited, it may come across better to them than if you're sitting in a chair, totally stressed out, not sleeping, worried, and so forth. So those are just some of my thoughts. You may have your own, just over the years from past experience. These are some things that I've encountered, and I would offer that back to consider. So anyway, have a Merry Christmas. This will probably be the last video before Christmas, most likely, since I'll be going into a rural area with no internet for a few days starting tomorrow. But have a blessed Christmas. Relax, get some rest, enjoy your loved ones, and smile. Let them know you're okay. I can tell you that a lot of folks who aren't seeing what's going on from their side, they do worry about their parents, that they're going off the deep end. So you want to ensure them that that is not the case for you, and that simply what you're trying to do is because you love them. All right. So anyway, you can email me at preparedness101@protonmail.com, preparedness101@protonmail.com, or you can visit our website at hopeforsurvival.com. Again, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe and be blessed. Merry Christmas. Bravo Echo out.